those are pretty cool to see. Like here's a Leo as Luke with Raphael as R2.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. While I was in Dallas shooting with Josh, I also went out and filmed with a collector named Matt George. Matt George is an interesting guy.
My first love with Star Wars toys.
He co-wrote the book Engineering an Empire for the Kenner Star Wars toy line.
And so me and two buddies wrote a book on Star Wars toys, focusing on the folks that actually made the toys at Kenner.
He actually has a bunch of rare prototypes, first shots from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line.
During the course of our research, we met a friend named Chris Fawcett, who's a longtime kind of Star Wars collector, historian. And he looped us in with some of his contacts that he had met, in the years kind of leading up to us doing the book. And when we went out to meet one of the gals from that list, her ex-husband had a bunch of old Ninja Turtle prototypes. Ninja Turtles was like the last toy line I collected as a kid. I started buying them, I think, when I was 12 in 1989. One of the things that she had in addition to some old prototypes was a list of everyone at Playmates that had anything to do with making the Ninja Turtle line. While we were finishing up the Star Wars book, Chris started researching all those people and reaching out to them to do his own book on Ninja Turtles and the history of the toy making process for that toy line. Basically, every step of the process is represented in some way in my collection and in the book. And it was all, just from meeting those folks.
So while I was in Dallas, I thought, hey, I need to go see some toy history, learn about the making of these toys that I love so much. So we stopped by Matt George's house, and he was gracious enough to pull out some prototypes, some first shots, some test runs of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line.
I think it was Laird. Was it Peter? Put up a bunch like a year or so ago.
Mirage, yeah.
Did you win those?
Yeah. Well, there's two lots. There's like a bad guy lot and a good guy lot. And the good guy lot was only like April and like
Raph, I think.
And Raph.
Yeah.
It was in the resin though. That's a different material. But
but then
that one only went for like 15 or 16.
Which is still because most of them were pretty complete because they'd still go about 5 a pop at least, right?
Yeah, I was shocked. Wait, they described them as first shots.
Yeah, I don't think they realized what they had.
But
yeah,
I mean, they're obviously resins.
I don't think they.
The first step is conceptualizing what figure do you want to make. It's pretty easy. Obviously, you want to make the turtles. So that first wave was 10 figures. So here's a original proof of the 10 back. So here's the first 10 figures that they made. And so when you're making the toy, you've got to start off with the conceptual phase. Well, that's pretty much already done. And so there, they would send the design drawings off to a sculptor who would sculpt a representation of the figure in three-dimensional wax. So we've got a couple examples here. This is the Leo, the Sewer Samurai. And you can see the extreme detail here in the original sculptings. It's lost in translation along the toy making process, but you can see the really fine level of detail here in these wax sculpts.
I've never looked that close before, but seeing here, like you said, you can see a lot of the details that you kind of lose on the produced figure.
Yeah, usually there's between like a 4 and 10% shrinkage from hard copy stage to plastic stage.
Yeah.
So you lose a lot of the fine detail, like his little, I don't know what you call them, but like rivets on his
kind of like the doctor
armor here. They show up on the final toy, but not nearly as pronounced as they do here.
Seeing that variant of Sewer Samurai Leonardo was just awesome. I really loved it and wish I could take it home. He did, however, give me this cool clay mold of the Sewer Samurai leg. It's not the only one, obviously, but it's one of a few. So I thought that was pretty cool.
We've got a Casey Jones, a metalhead over there. Once those were finished, they would be sent off to Playmates and then to the creators. And so once that's all approved, they can start actually making the toys. So a lot of times when they'll send off for the approvals, they won't send the original waxes because they're so delicate. So they'll make an actual mold, which is, we have a little representation of a mold over here. So this is the Make My Day Leo wax sculpt. So for each little part, they would make a silicone mold. And so they would pour silicone and they'd pour like a bed, and then they would lay each of the individual pieces in that bed, and then they would pour silicone over top of it, let it harden, cut it in half, pull it apart, and you're left with, you know, the relief of both sides of that. And then they'll pour in a resin and cast a resin, and it will create a hard copy. So a lot of what we have here is a hard copy. Here's like Rat King right here, for example. So this is a really, you know, it's a hard material. And so that's what they would send off to get approvals. So it's just a perfect, exact replica of the wax sculpt, but a lot more firm, and, you know, not, it wouldn't, likelihood of breaking is a lot lower. So once they get the approval, then they'll wind up painting. And here's a, you know, example of some painted hard copies here. They would paint them up as per kind of the style direction that they get from the artists and the holders of the property. Then once everything's signed off on, they will start marketing these items. And so a lot of times when you look at the card backs, these will be actual like hard copies or prototypes. So not the finished version. You'll notice a lot of times you'll see some variances between what's on the card back and what you actually got in your hand at the stores. And that's just because the lead time is so much longer on the marketing aspect, that, you know, some changes might happen along the way, but usually they're not too material and don't really affect very much. But they'll also do a painted version of these to send off to Toy Fair. So in February and October every year, there's a Toy Fair in New York where all the toy manufacturers will set up and they'll showcase all their upcoming items for the following year. So if, like, Christmas is obviously the big time of year. So the February show will be where they show all the Christmas products. And so a lot of these painted hard copies were actually in the Toy Fair booth for Playmates. So like these large examples here, these are all painted hard copies here. And those were in the Toy Fair booth for Playmates back in 91 and 92. And then from there, you know, once the customers have committed and they know exactly what figures are going to get made, they'll start making the tools over in the Orient. So they'll take one of these hard copies, it's called a tooling master, and they'll cast that in, they'll make a steel mold. And so in the steel molds, that's the final production tooling. So before they can, you know, create an item for sale, they need to get the plastic versions approved. And so they'll inject some plastic into the steel molds and create what's called a first shot. So a first shot it's made in plastic. Oftentimes you'll see them in non-production colors. And that's just because they'll use whatever plastic is on hand at the time. So they'll shoot them in plastic, then send these over for approval to make sure that the toy turned out like they thought it would. Usually there's some shrinkage involved when you go from a hard copy stage to the plastic stage. So they just want to make sure that nothing gets kind of lost in translation during the course of that transition. And then this piece, I don't know why that's when it exists. It's not really like that one, and it's not really like what we got on the final version. It's got some like slash marks on its chest, but we looked and it's actually this Raphael here that's on the card back. So that's got those slash marks on the chest like that one does, but it's not like that in the final version. Once everything gets approved from there, they can start making toys. And they'll make usually a couple different tools. So they'll run a couple different production lines for each figure. And then, you know, those are obviously shot in plastic and get sent off for packaging and then shipped off to the stores. On this proof card, originally Rocksteady's teeth were going to be more pronounced. And this is an example of what that looks like. So it wound up not looking like that in the final version. Obviously that the tusks were scaled down a little bit.
How long did you say it takes for a sculpt again?
On average 80 hours is kind of the feedback I've gotten from a lot of the sculptors. Probably a little more on some of the more intricate ones. Yeah, Varner and Henze, they had huge crews working on this stuff. You know, they would come up with ideas on their own to kind of pitch to Playmates for characters that didn't appear in the comics or on the cartoon. So they had in-house artists that would come up with, you know, crazy concepts and then could also sculpt too. So a lot of the artwork Varner and Playmates still have. This is Slash. So they had toyed with making Slash bigger. And so they actually sculpted him, you know, quite noticeably larger. But then they didn't want to box him. So they just shrunk him down to normal size.
Or do they call it like the show colors or something like that? I can't remember, but I know it's pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty much how he appeared in a cartoon. I don't know why that was ever made. I don't know if it's originally how it was going to look and they just kind of changed it last minute, or if they were thinking of maybe making a running style change,
like
doing
a first shot
silver.
got packaged up or something.
Yeah, I don't know why that exists, but we found that with a VP at Playmates.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
And he had two of them, and they were just in some random box with a bunch of other card stuff. But this one's pretty cool. This is the Ray Fillet. That's the exact Ray Fillet that's right there on the card backs that shows the color change. Here's some original pencil artwork for what you see here. I think they drew 4 for each card back and wound up picking 3. And so this is one of the ones that wasn't selected. So we've got a couple of different representations here of kind of the first 2 waves.
the Rocksteady with the
soldier.
Yeah, soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of some head sculpt. Some of the things like this is still before they kind of like took them off like they're still attached, whatever you would call it. You know what I'm trying to say? So see how the little pieces here,
Slightly.
but that's like when they still pulled from the mold. And then see,
Wow, damn.
but like it's just head and I'm like son of a bitch. And then this, I have no idea what this is. It's like they just did half of it, like like half of it is all detailed, and then the other half is like they just melted it, like
weird.
they never finished it or something. So I don't know what the fuck that is.
That's
But I've got pieces like Donnie's
Dracula
like
Don.
yeah, and then like before they made it a double-sided,
Mm.
so some of the staffs.
Yeah, that's one of the more famous pieces because it was in the Toy Fair catalog. So it's the Mutations line. So they showed the party wagon turning into Metalhead. So that's the original artwork, and like here's all the stages of him putting it all together. That's the final version. But they wound up not making it. But it was in the Toy Fair catalog, and people were bummed they didn't make it because it was awesome.
Yeah.
They did all kinds of different Ninja Turtles in sports poses. They did a lot of Ninja Turtles in disguises, undercover Don, Sewer Samurai. So they proposed a lot of different kind of mashups. One thing that they proposed back in the day to Lucasfilm was to do a Star Wars Ninja Turtle mashup. So here's just like the Vader Shredder mashup. They were making a play to get the Star Wars license for a 6-inch scale back in the early to mid 90s because Kenner had the 3 3/4 inch scale. So they presented that to them, and Lucasfilm had a pretty good relationship with Hasbro, so they said no. Those are pretty cool to see. Like here's a Leo as Luke with Raphael as R2. I think we found the artwork for like 7 figures. And then he's kind of taking it to the next level. He's doing like a Boba Fett and
Chewie and all.
yeah, Obi-Wan and Han Solo. He's just expanding it kind of beyond the original.
Wasn't there like an
Artwork
Indiana
found.
Jones artwork too?
Yeah, that's this one here.
Yeah, that right. Yeah.
That's the first one I had him do.
I saw that. I think.
Do you have any of those?
Yeah.
Can we see them or no?
They are. I didn't pull them out. They're in my storage unit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. But that line would have been pretty cool. Those sketches look really, really good, and I kind of wish that they would put those in production. Kind of mixing two of the longest running toy lines out there. If you think they should do that, leave a comment below. But again, thanks for watching. There'll be another video next week at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. We'll talk to you guys later.